Hello, everybody, and welcome back to JTA Sports. I'm Ethan.
I'm Matthew.
And I'm Jackson.
And what are we doing today, Matt?
Talking about sports.
Thank you. This is our 20th episode, 2-0. Look at us go. But this is a great milestone. Whoa, we hit 20. We're going to hopefully continue to ramp up our episodes now that the summer is hit and now that we have actually nothing to do. So look forward to us trying to post more and be more active on our Just Talking About Sports channel. But today we're going to be talking about the new plan that the NHL has implemented for their 24-team playoffs. They've eliminated their regular season, and Commissioner Gary Bettman on Tuesday came out saying that they will transition to this two-conference 24-based playoff team where it actually allows 12 teams from each conference to make the playoffs. It's going to be a very interesting set of playoffs. There is, however, no date set on where and when this will be occurring. There is supposedly going to be 2 hub cities where this will be taking place. There's been plenty of options, and somehow Chicago's in there. So surprising to see them in there. But there's going to be a lot of rules that are being implemented in this idea that they're going to be coming back with. There's going to have to be COVID testing, which has been seen with plenty of other places around the league, especially the other professional sports. But there's also going to be, for the playoffs, there's going to be a first round of the playoffs that they're going to be running, which is going to be the top 4 teams are going to be in a round robin where the 4 teams will be basically playing for the top seed, and those teams basically get a bye, but they basically made the playoffs. They don't have to worry about anything. They don't have to play, and if they lose, they're still in the playoffs. Whereas the teams from 5 to 12 from each division, each conference, they actually have to play each other. Where on the East, they're going to be having to play number 5 is going to be up against, or basically the number 5 team is the Penguins. They're going to be up against the Canadians, Hurricanes versus the Rangers, Islanders versus the Panthers, Maple Leafs versus the Blue Jackets in the East. And then we have the Oilers versus the Blackhawks, the Predators versus the Coyotes, the Canucks versus the Wild, the Flames versus the Jets. So those are all the teams that have made it. So it's going to be a very interesting idea that they're going to all make it. And besides that, though, going back to our question, do you guys like how this is going to be set up? Do you guys think that these playoffs will be actually interesting to watch?
I got to say 100%, just because not only have we been starved of sports, but there's more teams. There's going to be more games in terms of the playoffs. Just to quick clarify, the first round between those 5 and lower seeds, they're going to be a best of 5 series. Whoever wins 3 games first, they're going to go in. And then the loser of that series is entered into the lottery. So we could potentially have Edmonton into the lottery or something, even though they were a 5 seed. So, yeah, I'm really excited. Personally, as a Blackhawks fan, I'm very, very happy about this. And it's also fair to a lot of those teams that were ranked 9 through 12, because in both conferences, there was a real shot that they could have pushed for the playoffs with the remaining games in the regular season. In a realistic sense, probably not, but it still gives them an opportunity to qualify for the playoffs and just have a shot. And I think that's the most fair. And it's also nice. It's where you see in some playoffs where the number 1 seed plays the lowest seed. It's the exact opposite. So the 4 seed will play the lowest team, the 3rd seed, the next, and then the 1 seed will play the highest seed remaining in this from that first 3 games, 5 game series in that first round. But I'm really excited. Playoff hockey, even though there's going to be no fans, it's still going to be great. Sports is sports. I do hope they filter in crowd noise just to maybe for the player's sake and for the viewing experience. But I'm really excited.
Yeah, this was something that I really like what you said there about the whole crowd noise thing. This is something that Jim Nantz, Joe Buck, and all of them were talking about. And it's not the same as a broadcaster or a player if you don't have crowd noise. So I thought that very good mention of that. I think this playoff format is incredible. I think you have 24 teams who, as Jackson said, may or may not have made the playoffs, but at least it gives everybody a rightful chance, except for the Sabres. But we don't talk about Buffalo after being like the 1 seed for a month. Anyway, I think that the whole way the NHL, they wanted to set a trend here for other sports to potentially follow. I think the NHL decided to step up and say, hey, we want to make something entertaining. We want to put ourselves out there. We want to be flexible, and they did that. And now we have the NHL that's looking at a situation where they're probably going to gain a ton of revenue from people watching the games. They have to find ways to make money without fans in the stands. More playoff games will do that. TV revenue, that means you can plug in more advertisements in all the games. This was not only for the teams, it was for the NHL Association in itself. They wanted to make sure that they still had a good amount of revenue coming in. And in order to do that, they needed to make more games for the playoffs. So I think this was a great decision by the NHL because it benefits not only the fans, but the players and the NHL itself.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about me personally is I love this. This is an amazing idea. The only problem is the NHLPA still has not yet to approve it just because of the health concerns. But they have basically that the fact that the NHL and some of the players are liking it and they're actually approving of this already is showing that this is great signs for this to actually happen. It's amazing just to see that professional sports are actually picking, or at least creating plans to start again, because after these months of this COVID-19 break that we've had, they've been very, very quiet, especially the NHL. They have not said a word until on Tuesday when they actually said it. So it's great to see that they're making progress, that they're compared to the other leagues where they've some of them have already come up with plans, but this is the first surreal plan that at least major leagues have come up with yet. And it's just amazing. Going back to what you said about like the fans and all, I just hope they play some of those horns whenever they score a goal just to hype everyone up, because that's all we care about. The fans may not be there, but at least those goal horns will be super, super hyped whenever we hear them again. And overall, I just really, really like the idea. It's putting something pen to paper that they're going to start. Yes, they still have not decided a date or any time to even start it, and they have a phase plan just like every other government and state is trying to do. They have a phase 1 plan which is basically the plan. Phase 2 is what they're going to try and do in early June, which is kind of like letting the facilities, like in the staff, get back into their facilities to try and work. Phase 3 is going to start the training camp, which they're hoping to do in early July. And then phase 4, which will resume play, is what they're hoping for either late July or early August. So having these plans in set is great. It's very optimistic for all of us sports fans to see something basically gives us something to look forward to, because beforehand we really had nothing to do or nothing to look forward to, and just being very, very bored at home with nothing to watch on TV, basically, other than Netflix and Hulu and whatever the heck you're watching. But besides that, though, it's great to see that the NHL is doing something, and I just can't wait until hopefully they start soon.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just, like I said, I'm really excited about all of this. And we'll see where this goes. I mean, it's just going to be real interesting to see how everything plays out. And some of the hub cities were interesting. I saw like Toronto was another one, and apparently they've had a really bad time with COVID. So it's interesting that they're even in consideration for a hub city. So, but we'll see. I just want it to happen at this point. Of all the leagues so far, I would say the NBA and the NHL have handled this really well. MLB has handled this like absolute doo-doo.
Yes.
Especially on the owner side, where they want to cut the player's salary and then they want to cut it even more. So if they were going to play 81 games, they'd have the player's salary cut in half. And now they want player's salary to take like another a percentage out. There's a whole list of programs where someone who is projected to make $35 million for a whole season, under these potential rules, they'd make $7 million for the season.
Wow. What's worth playing for at that point? What is it even worth playing for if you're somebody who, like, let's just say Bryce Harper makes, how much does he make a year? Like 40?
Yeah, he signed a 13-year $300 million deals. So sure.
Right. And then my question to him is, do you even play if you're only going to make 10 mil? I mean, maybe not even 10 mil. God, I mean, if you look at the contract number, for a guy like him who makes whatever we said he makes, like 30, 33 mil a year,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's not worth it for a guy to make maybe an $8, $9, $10 million salary for playing half the games that you normally would. That's not beneficial to the players at all. So the MLB has handled this horribly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the MLB, if as much as like it sucks, the players are going to be the ones that are playing in the end. And logically, the MLB would be probably the first like sport to be back before the other ones because they're not really as much contact sport as these other ones because they're already basically spread 6 feet apart. And they simply, it's pretty easy to keep everyone 6 feet apart, at least in baseball, because it's also a lot slower, kind of like golf. You'd think it'd be golf and then baseball and then maybe these other teams. But somehow the MLB is dropping the ball and they haven't really helped their situation at all with all this player money dispute. Yes, the money, they're not really getting any revenue right now because they're struggling and there really is no revenue to bring in. And yes, you have to pay these players a lot of money, but continuing to cut their salaries is just going to make them angry and angrier. And what's to say that they're going to play this year? So this could lead to some holdouts, some strikes, some lockouts even maybe for the MLB. They are not headed in the right direction compared to these NHLs and NBAs who's actually handled it a lot more, I think, formally compared to these other leagues. So for them to be doing that compared to like these NHLs is just not great for them.
I'm concerned for the NFL too and what they're doing because I feel as though in a way they're kind of ignoring it. They're like, this will be gone by September. We don't have to worry about this. I feel as though the NFL is not doing a good job of protecting its players. And we know that the Players Association and the NFL themselves do not get along at all. The owners, it is just not something that is congruent. That's a good way to put it. And they're never in agreement ever. And so when you're looking at player salary changes, when you're looking at schedule changes, which are going to happen whether you wanted to or not, I think that the massive deal that the NFL is going to have to take is they haven't even prepared for any of this. They have not prepared for having to make a schedule change. They have not prepared for a loss in revenue. And so when it hits them, they're going to have some issues not only with their own organization, but with the players, with fans, and with team organizations.
I did see a report, though, that the NFL is trying to make N95 style face masks. So in addition to like the traditional like face masks we see on NFL helmets, they're also going to try and incorporate some degree of like an N95 style material. So that way players aren't, I know it doesn't help when you're an offensive lineman trying to block a defensive line, you're touching them. But at least in this case, they're not necessarily breathing on each other. But the rest of those points, I definitely agree. The NFL's kind of
drop the ball as well.
They've kind of taken a laissez-faire approach, kind of similar to some state governments and some a little bit in the federal government with this. So they're going to have to start ramping up in terms of realizing and planning. So we'll see.
Well, what I've heard is that, at least first off, that the NFL is trying to do stuff. I mean, they're finding ways to bring in revenue. The Dolphins are holding in drive-in theaters, which they will try and create some type of revenue for COVID and for themselves to try and at least have some type of revenue, which will eventually make it to the players that they actually can pay, and they'll be in a better situation. Also, they're going to have training camps slowly but surely. They've already allowed staff inside the facilities. They're going to see if basically by July, they're one of the few leagues that are starting this process. They were the first ones to let the staff back in, I'm almost certain, besides the NBA. So they're starting their process earlier than these other teams or these other leagues. Yes, it's because it's easier for them because they're not starting, but I think this thing is going to slowly it's going to die down, and people are going to feel like better about it once we get to August. That's why they're taking a slower approach, because they don't know. They have plenty of months to take their time. And yes, it may help. Maybe it may eventually hit them or hurt them in. But I think the way that they're approaching it is a smart way to do it, because if they're already throwing things under the bus, if they're saying that, oh shoot, I guess we're not going to have our season, if they're being negative, then it's going to not help them once they reach it to September, and they're not going to be able to have any type of situation. And also, they've already said that they've already going to prepare the preseason. They're already ready to cancel that completely or move it back. They've already have set by, like, what happens if the week 1 they're not ready, then they could everyone use their bye weeks and move them back, because the Dolphins, if you guys don't know, Hurricane Irma a few years ago, they had their week 1 game turn into a bye because they physically couldn't play in Florida when the hurricane hit. So they've done it before. Why can't they do it again? So I think the NFL has taken a better approach than some other leagues, especially MLB, and I think they will be ready because they have plenty of time to do it. I think they're starting the process. They're supposed to have their players get into their facilities by, I'm pretty sure, late June or early July. They're almost ready to get ready for it. I also heard the NCAA too. They're already letting their athletes into their facilities. The NCAA already has said that by June 1st. So they're starting this up. I think football will be ready. Whether these NHL and these MLB and these baseballs will be ready, I don't know.
And, one of the things that we have to recognize, though, is that it really isn't going to come down to the associations of our sports that will determine whether we're going to be ready when they say they will. It's all the unpredictability of the virus itself. Like, the NFL can try all they want to be ready by September 10th, that Thursday, week 1, where the Chiefs will host the first game of the season. Doesn't mean that the virus will be gone, if you know what I mean, or not as big of an issue. If certain cities and certain places are not in a good enough spot by September 10th to be ready, and you have to factor in the preseason and all the training camps, then there's absolutely no way the season starts on time, and there may not be a way for the season to play on the way that it should. But so I think we have to realize that it is out of everyone's control. It is nobody's control. It will eventually come down to whatever happens, happens.
Because sports is the end of the stick.
Right. Matthew, there's something you wanted to talk to us about in terms of, with obviously the NHL deciding to move to a 24-team playoff. You were mentioning something along the lines of the NBA that you really wanted to get into.
Yes, I think that the NBA needs to follow suit with what the NHL did. I think they need to immediately skip the end of their regular season. There is no reason. It is not close at all in the Eastern Conference. So if we want to debate anything there, the East you can lock up the East and not have to worry about it. The Western Conference is a lot more competitive in the terms of the 8, 9, 10 seeds with the Grizzlies, the Blazers, etc. I think that if this whole thing pays off for the NHL, they may not know. I think the NHL will be back before the NBA, in my opinion, because of the way they have things mapped out. But if they find out that it works, I think the NBA should copy the strategy. I think they should do the same thing with a 24-team playoff. Top 4 seeds in each conference. Top 4 seeds in each conference get buys, and then the 5 through 12s battle off in a best-of-5 first round. That's the way to try and make up for some of the lost fan revenue. That's a way to make some entertainment, more games out there, and get some of these teams that could have made a late run get a chance to come back in too. It's what the NHL did. It's the impact that they could make. It's the way to, in a way, I guess, earn some respect from the fans, the players, and everything. So I'm searching up now the teams that would not be in the playoffs that would be in now. And you look at a team like I still don't think the Bulls are in, are they?
No,
I'm trying.
No.
They are not going to be in it. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. If you're saying if the NHL copies or the NBA copies the NHL, yes, the Bulls would end up playing the Pacers.
What?
Huh. Well, they're still dead anyway.
Oh, no.
But yeah.
Hold on. My bad. No, they'd play the Sixers.
Oh, they're the 11, aren't they? Yeah, they're the 11. My bad.
The Knicks would play the Pacers.
The Knicks would be in the playoffs.
No.
Stephen A. Smith would get the dream of his life. All right, and then you look at the Western Conference. The Spurs playoff streak would continue on. The Kings would get in. The Pelicans with Zion get a playoff game against Luka, and Portland goes off against Memphis. Like, you look at this and you look at the games that would be played. You see Charlotte versus Brooklyn, Washington versus Orlando. What's another good one? Indiana versus the Knicks. Nobody cares about that one. But there's a couple of really good ones. Like another one, OKC versus San Antonio. Like a ton of series here that would be very interesting to watch and could make a ton of revenue for the NBA. Either that or another idea is combine the conferences and make a 16-team playoff. There's multiple options. But whatever the NBA does, I don't think they should keep it the way it is. I think they need to ditch the rest of the regular season no matter what happens here. I think there's just no realistic way to finish the regular season, finish a whole playoff series, and then in 3 weeks of an off season and get right back into a new season. It's just not possible. It's just something that can't happen, and the NBA needs to find a way to change their playoff and regular season format for this season specifically.
Yeah, I mean, for this NBA to copy the NHL one, I think they're gonna have. If I were them, I know the Eastern Conference is basically set, but the fact that the Western Conference isn't is going to force some. Basically, they're going to end up having to let the East basically do the same thing the NHL has to do, because they're going to try and give everyone a fair opportunity, because who knows if the Bulls could have ran off 20 games in a row or however many they had remaining. There's a chance, statistically wise. So that would
every team is still in that realistically has a chance apart from the Warriors. So, and the Warriors are just one game and just got eliminated the day before.
Yeah, they just got eliminated.
The whole thing got canceled. And so if they realistically wanted to put everybody in, had a mathematical odds to stay in, you could roll with all 30 teams in a playoff setting. I just don't think that – I just don't like that.
Oh. I don't want to see Cleveland. I don't want to see Minnesota or Phoenix.
Oh, I would have no problem seeing Minnesota.
No.
That's me, though.
Here, so it looks most likely. I saw a couple of reports out there that if they did change up the playoffs, it would be the 1 through 16 seeded, regardless of conference. So here's what the matchups would be: Milwaukee and Orlando, Miami and OKC, Denver and Indiana.
I like that for us.
Clippers and Mavericks. Lakers and Nets.
They would bring KD back for that. I can tell you right now.
No, KD already said.
I'm not bringing him back now.
KD already said he would not. He's not coming back regardless of coronavirus.
They better get Kyrie back, otherwise it's not a series.
Then Utah and Houston again.
Great for the 18 gazillionth time in a row.
Boston and Philadelphia. And Toronto and Memphis.
That's the weirdest series I've ever heard in my life. Toronto and Memphis. Is that the 215?
Yes, or at least how I'm looking at it on that side of the bracket. That would be the 2-7.
It'd be the 215. That Matthew's right. I'm looking at this.
Yeah, no, 413, right, or something like that. Whatever it is.
The 2 seed is the Lakers in this, because the Bucks are the 1 seed.
Oh, I can't do that. 3.
Right, yeah, they're the 4. Because the Clippers are the only team there. Oh, no, wait. Is it the Nuggets?
It goes Bucks, Lakers, Clippers, Raptors.
Same thing.
Thank you. Okay. And then those 4 teams run the corners of the brackets. Got it.
Yeah, but that's if they only do 16 games. I think
16 teams.
They'll do 24 just because we'll have some complaints from Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento. Oh, God, New Orleans.
Especially Portland.
Especially
Portland. They were half a game out, and they were on their way to stealing the 8 seed from Memphis. If Portland doesn't get into this playoff bracket,
Portland was 2.5 games out.
Oh, because they blew it. They blew it in the last game. That's right.
They were tied essentially with New Orleans and and Sacramento.
Which is why I think the 24 makes more sense. By the way, because we see how close it is between.
And then once it hits right past San Antonio, I mean it's Phoenix. They're only 1 game back, but it's Phoenix. Are they going to really beat whoever they verse? I think they'd have to end up going against. I
don't know about that. I mean, you saw the way Phoenix started the season. I think that they could be, but I think 24 is the best way to roll it. I think that it's the way that's the most fair. Can we start with that?
Yes.
I don't care what we all want.
It'd be more fun in the West. It'd be more fun in the West, but in the East,
just the Knicks
snooze fest. You have the Knicks and the Pacers. The Pacers are going to destroy them.
Philadelphia
and Chicago, I think, would be somewhat interesting if everyone was healthy.
The Bulls.
It'd go 5 or 4. I'm going to be honest, but at least it'd be somewhat interesting.
How would it go 5 or 4 if we're talking best of 5?
Oh, right. I was thinking best of 7. That's why.
Okay. No, if they do what they do, it's going to be a best of 5, I think. But how about we combine both ideas? because, let's be real. Nobody wants to see the Knicks. So top 24 still.
Ah,
You merge both
you'd have the
conferences.
Bucks versus the Knicks.
No, but the Knicks wouldn't be in. You merge top 24 in both combined.
Oh, okay.
And the six worst teams
Oh,
don't.
That means Phoenix
scared
gets
me.
That's all that means is Phoenix gets in and New York doesn't. That's what if you
No, that makes multiple teams in the West get in and a couple in the East fall
What do you mean?
out.
The next team after Phoenix is the
Minnesota.
Timberwolves. They're at 19 wins. They're below.
Oh, yeah, you're correct. You're right.
So if we take all 8 teams from both conferences that are already in the playoffs, here are the next teams that would be in for 24. You'd have Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, Phoenix. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You need one more. Would New York still be in?
No. The next team in would be the Wizards.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, if it's 24, it'd be 8 more teams. That was only 6.
Shit, then who else is left?
So the next 2 would be Charlotte and Chicago. Chicago would be the 24 seed.
And they would play number 9 in the first round in our theory. So who would that be?
Yikes.
Number 9?
Yes.
So let's see. So the top 4 are Milwaukee, LA Lakers, LA Clippers, Toronto Raptors. Let's see. So then it'd be the Boston has 43 wins. So then it'd be Denver and then Boston. So that's 6.
Yep.
After that, 7 and 8 would be Miami and Utah. So 9 would be OKC or Houston because they're tied.
Well, for the Bulls' sake, you would hope it's OKC. Yeah. I don't think Zach LaVine wants any part of James Harden in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and Kobe White doesn't want any part of Russell Westbrook.
Exactly.
Or Chris Dunn.
Hey, Chris Dunn's a good defender.
Forward.
Chris Dunn's a good defender.
Chris Dunn, the small forward. I remember when they played him at small forward, nearing towards the end of this whole regular season, and I still didn't understand what was going on in that. But Wendell Carter versus PJ Tucker. Okay, I'm done with that now. I think I'm just excited to see what sports does. I think just all in all, we'll never know until we officially get word. We can keep predicting as long as we want, but until then, we're never going to know what's going to happen, but it is fun to predict.
Yep.
Exactly. Oh, well, I don't think you guys have anything else to say, especially since we just went off topic again, as usual. Gotta go for
welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back. But other than that, thank you guys for tuning in to our 20th episode of Just Talking About Sports. We're finally in the 20s, and we're going to be slowly but surely continuing to post more often. So stay tuned until then. But without further ado, hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time.
Later.
Peace. Hawks number 4.